Hey everyone, welcome to our second session. Glad you could make it. We'll give everyone a few minutes to show up. We're here a little early. If you want to send notes in the chat, that would be great. Say who you are, where you're from. Hopefully we'll see some new names, some names of people who are here already last time. Should be lots of fun. Ooh, lots of people joining. This is great. So I'm just going to mute myself for a few moments, but we'll start in a few minutes. I promised I would start at the top of the hour, so we'll give people a few minutes to show up, and we'll take it from there. Meanwhile, if you have questions, feel free to send it in the question panel. You can also send in the chat if you want. I don't know. We'll figure out exactly which one is better for our purposes. But I'm happy to see people coming. No, it's really great. This is great fun for me. The plan, by the way, is to go over the, I don't know if we can call it homework, but the exercises that I put in the forum. Shouldn't take too long to do that. If people have questions, we can do that. And then we're going to head on to some new topics as well, which should be fun and good. And good news, this time I know how to post things in the chat so that everyone can see it. So hey, there's an improvement. We're all learning, right? All right, excellent. Lots of people showing up. This is terrific. All right, so we got another minute or two before we start to get into things a little bit more. Okay, I see people coming in. This is great. This is great. So here is the basic plan for today. First of all, we're going to go over the so-called homework assignment that I gave you. I should actually look that up since I don't remember exactly what I told you to do. You're not supposed to reveal that, right, when you're teaching a course like this. And then today's topic is going to be sort of making decisions with the if statement. And if is actually like the core of just about everything we do in programming. So hopefully that will be useful, interesting. And you'll see everything that we're going to do here, it's not like we might be taking baby steps, but we're not doing baby things. We're doing things that people actually need when they're programming, when they're working on stuff. So, all right, let's see. Lots of people joining. This is great. Let's see, what do I have there? All right, and these. Still trying to figure out exactly the interface here. All right, should be good. Let's see if we can get that. Got it. Okay, so we are going to start, and we're going to take it from there. Let's see. Oh, how do I Oh, I see. It's just different panels. I do close this panel or minimize. There we go. Okay, excellent, excellent. Nice to have you guys back here. This is fantastic. So, welcome to session 2 of our Python for Non-Programmers class. For those of you who are just coming in now, so the basic plan is I'm going to go over the assignment questions that I gave in the forum. We'll go over those briefly. If people have questions, I can answer them. That'll be my pleasure. You can put them in either the question panel or in the chat. Probably the question panel is a little better just because it's easier to keep track of. Not that people have been writing too much in the chat, but just in case. And then we will move forward and talk about the if statement and how we can make decisions in our programs. So that's the basic plan for today. So let me see. Okay. So last time, you might remember, and let me share my screen because that would actually be useful for you to see since I'm going to be programming. And let me also remind you, remind you a few things. First of all, I want to send this to everyone in meeting, yeah. So first of all, if you want to see what I'm doing on my screen, I guess I should share it now. So I'm going to be using, once again, the Jupyter Notebook, and we're going to click share that. There we go. Okay, so now I'm sharing this notebook. This notebook is available on GitHub, and it's updated every 2 minutes or so. So it won't be perfect. It won't be instantaneous, but it's not going to be bad. Where can I put where's the chat? Chat. I guess it's here. There we go. Okay, so if you go to, let me actually just double check the URL there. GitHub proven Python for non-programmers. There would be a good URL. So if you go to what I just put in the chat, you'll be able to see, and you go to today's Jupyter Notebook, you can see it updated in roughly real time as I'm typing to it, and that might be easier to see, to scroll back on, rather than like waiting until the end of the course. When I'm done with today's session, and it might be today, it might be tomorrow night, depending on timing, I will put on the course dashboard at store.learner.co.il, I will put both today's recording and this Jupyter Notebook, so you can download it, take a look at it, play with it if you want. I definitely encourage you to do that. And I also, we have the forum, of course, where I'm happy to answer questions. I already put up a topic for this session, and that's where I'm also going to put some, homework. Now, someone had asked in the forum last time, a day or two ago, where do we put the homework? Where do we submit it? That is the advantage of teaching a course like this. You think I'm going to check your homework? Are you crazy? No, no, no. The point of the homework is just to give you something to work on, to sort of chew on. Right now, it's going to be pretty easy. They will get a little more complicated, even a lot more complicated, and something to think about, work on over the course of the week. If you have questions about it, you can ask about it in the forum. And then each session, I'll go over the previous session's homework questions, and then we can talk about that. Link to the forum is at forum.learner.co.il. If you just signed up for the course recently, like in the last 24 hours, you might not have gotten an invite to the forum. I tend to send those out every 24, 48 hours with whoever signed up for the course most recently. I'm trying to automate that. And once you go into the forum, then you should see automatically all the topics for Python for non-programmers. If you signed up earlier than 24 hours ago and you still haven't seen an invite to the forum, then it might well have been in your junk or your spam folder. If you don't see it in any of those places, just email me and I'll resend your invite. But basically you need an invite to get into the forum. That way we can keep it a little bit closed and keep the bad folks out, as it were. Okay, so last time we talked about assigning variables, and we talked about how there's a difference between strings, meaning text, and integers, meaning whole numbers. And we're going to go into both of those data types much, much more over the course of this class, over the next few weeks. But for now, it's enough to know that if I want to assign a value, I can just say like x equals 100, and that both creates the variable because it didn't exist before, and it assigns a value to it. It says that x is going to equal 100. Okay, well, the question was define two variables here. I'm just going to copy this from the forum, actually. Can I do that? I should be able to do that. There we go. Come back, come back. Here, I'm going to put this, and I'll put it in comments here in Jupyter. So we'll do that. Okay, that was not like fine. I'll do that, and maybe I'll like format a little bit. Okay, and format this a little bit as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to define two variables, x and y, with integer values. So x is 100, and y is, let's call it 200. We're going big. And we're going to multiply them together and assign the result to a third variable, z. So I'm going to say here, z equals x times y. Now, what's going on in each of these cases? So always in assignment, you got to remember this, always in assignment, it's right side before left side. So the right side here, 100, that's a number. Python evaluates it. So, oh, that's a number. I know what that is. And it says, okay, let's have x reference 100. Let's have x refer to or even point to 100. And then y, same thing. We have the value 200. Y refers to it. So now x is referring to 100. Y is referring to 200. And then once again, we're going to do assignment. So we're going to say here, x times y. So Python says, give me the value of x. And what it does is it replaces it. It starts off with z equals x times y. And then it says, what is the value of x? Oh, let's replace that with its value, 100. What is the value of y? Let's replace that with its value, 200. And then it does this multiplication, which had to be, was it 20,000, right? I think so. And then it takes that value, 20,000. I think that I got that right. Yeah. And then it assigns that to z. So the value z is then going to be, what do you know? 20,000. Amazing. Amazing, right? Cynthia is asking, how do you get to Jupyter? So you can start it on your computer if you want. I put some instructions in the forum. If you're having problems, you can look there. If you want to just look at what I'm doing, you can look at the GitHub. You can either look at my shared screen, or you can look at the GitHub link that I put up, and then you can watch it in more or less real time. It's delayed by about 2 minutes or so. And that's because Jupyter saves every minute. And then I have the auto update running every minute. So the maximum should be about 2 minutes, and then you'll have to refresh in your browser, but you can see it if that's easier for you than watching it sort of live in front of you here. So this is how we can take two values, and then we can multiply them and do something else with them, and then we can assign them. Fantastic. Okay, so far so good. What was the second question? Let's ask the user via input to enter their name and print a nice greeting to the person. Ah, nice greeting, boy. Who gives nice greetings anymore, right? Who sees people anymore? Okay. So I'm going to say here, name equals input. Enter your name. And look at how we use the input function. Input is a function that asks the user to enter something. And whatever the user enters is taken as text, is taken as a string. So if I say now, if I run this, and I say Reuben, what's happening? Well, I mean, I'll show you. But what's basically happening is I'm going to do like a little substitution thing just like I did before. It starts off with, I'm just going to copy this. It starts off with name equals input, blah, 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 blah. The input function asks for my name, and then it replaces itself with whatever I gave. So basically, there's no difference between name equals string Reuben and name equals the result of input when I type Reuben. Both are precisely the same as far as Python is concerned. And so name, when it gets a value, it has no way of knowing, did I get this from the user? Or did I get this from a hard-coded string? Because it's already, it's on the left side there. By the way, what if the variable already exists, X or Y or Z or name, and we assign something new to it? The previous value, poof, goes away. So assigning to a variable guarantees that the new value has replaced any old value, or the new value is like the first one there. But either way, any history, any knowledge of the old value is totally, totally gone. Okay, third thing was, here, I'm going to copy this here. And this was like not a brain twister, but like an interesting thing to notice in Python. So I'm going to define two variables. X should contain a string, meaning text, and Y should contain an integer. And what happens if you try to add them together? And what happens if you try to multiply them? Well, let's do this. I'm going to say X equals ABCD. And then Y equals 3. So what happens if I try to add them? X plus Y. It's not going to work. It's not going to work because Python will say, wait a second, I don't know what to do here. Plus, are you telling me that I should add these things together like they're numbers, but ABCD isn't a number? Are you saying I should join them together like strings because you use plus on strings? Well, I'm confused. And so whenever there's ambiguity, Python gives up. By the way, if I had said here, like X equals 5 as a string and Y equals 10 as an integer, it also would not allow me to do that because of that ambiguity. So it's not just because my text here doesn't contain digits. It's because Python will not allow you to add a string and an integer together, either this way or this way, either way. But what if I take this? I'm going to define this again. What if I take X equals ABCD and Y equals 3, and I say X times Y? Oh, well, that makes a lot of sense, right? Then I get a new string. So this returns a new string with, X, Y, X, I don't know, concatenated. That's a great computer word, concatenated, Y times. Concatenate means to join together. And so what we have here is 3 times ABCD, ABCD, ABCD in a new string. By the way, have we changed X? No, of course not. Have we changed Y? No, of course not. We've created a new string, X times Y, which we have not assigned to anyone, so it's now gone. But if I were to say Z equals X times Y, then yeah, Z is ABCD, 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 and so on and so forth. Actually, I often, just so you know, like if I want to print a long line in a program of mine, so I'll often say like print minus times 60. And then I get a nice dashed line across there. So if you ever encounter this in a log file somewhere, I might have been there, or someone who studied with me who thought this was like a genius use of the minus sign in multiplication. I mean, I'd like to think there's smarter things out there. Anyway, so those are the exercises that I gave you in the forum for this week. Any questions about any of this? Anything I can answer about this or anything else that was troubling you this week? Personal problems are also welcome. Okay, maybe not. You can either put in the Q&A. I'm going to answer that live. Done. Any other questions, you put in the Q&A panel. You can put in the chat panel. Okay, so far so good. Or you all need to be faster typing. Ha! All right. So what are we going to do now? Now we're going to talk about decision making. And this is actually one of the key parts of programming. And it'll seem really, replace this with why multiply works and plus doesn't. So the answer is because. So that's not a very useful answer. So let me try to let me try to explain. So if I say here X equals, let's call it 10 as a string, right? This is a string containing digits. And then I say Y equals 5. So basically, the plus sign, I can say x plus x. And now we're adding two strings together, so we get a new string. Now, who makes that decision? This is not a law of nature, right? Nowhere did Isaac Newton write down, and when you add two strings together, always do you get a new string? No, this was a design decision by the people who created the programming language. And so they decided that if you have two strings and use plus, won't it be convenient to say this string plus that string will get a new string? Yeah, I think so. In the same way, if I say y plus y, adding two integers together, gives us a new int. And that also makes sense, right? I would want to use the plus sign to add two ints together. So this makes a lot of sense, and this makes a lot of sense. But then the designers of Python were faced with a similar problem to what many designers of languages do, which is what happens when you get into a weird corner case, like x plus y. Now you could argue that there are like three different options for this. So what should Python do here? And there are a few options, right? Option one would be treat them both like numbers and give us 15 integer, right? That's a reasonable sort of thing for it to do. They could say, well, we only have digits here, let's turn to an integer. The other thing to do is treat them both like strings and give us 105, right? A string. I guess I should put quotes here. And option three is throw up your hands, complain, and say it was ambiguous. And I've used programming languages that did the first. I've used programming languages that did the second. And Python is one of the rare ones, but not the only ones, to do the last one. It says, you know what, I'm just not going to guess. And the reason is that Python really tries to be straightforward and obvious and not guess, not like make seemingly arbitrary decisions. So they said, you know what, integer plus string or any this type plus that type, not going to work. We're just going to sort of complain. And it turns out that this is actually a smart thing to do, right? So you got a type error, all is good. But then you might say, wait a second, so why does x times y work? Why would that work? And the answer is basically that they thought this would be really useful. Guess what? It's really useful. It's also unambiguous. When I say string times integer, what I mean is I want to get a new string consisting of the first one times the second one. And by the way, you could do it in either direction. If I say y times x, I'll get the same thing. So they decided that this was actually useful to implement, and I happen to agree, because you're not going to get any sort of ambiguity there. You're definitely getting a string back. All right, that makes sense? Oh, so this means that stir type implements dunder add. Yes, exactly. Hey, Torval. Okay. So I see someone asked, Mitch4 asked about the forum. So I'm not sure what your question is. I mean, if you go to the forum, if you go to forum.learnercol, anyone who's in this course should have access to that forum. I mean, if you didn't get an invite, let me know, as I mentioned earlier, but it should give you permission then to see all the topics that are for this course, including everything. And if it does not work for you, just drop me a line and I'll try to take care of it. Okay, cool. All right, so what are we up to now? If there are no other questions, although we'll sort of get to more, I'm sure as well, let's make some decisions. So basically, the key to all programming is decision making. If this is true, then do this. If that is true, then do that. If you don't have that sort of decision making, you don't really have programming. I remember back when I was in college, I guess it was after college actually. Must have been. Well, I mean, I remember in college, and this definitely dates me, right? So you remember VCR? Some of you might remember them, where you would program them to tape a show because, oh my God, a TV show was only on at a certain hour, and you would program this machine. The thing was, typically people did not know how to program their VCRs to tape things at a certain hour, and so all of us in college would roll our eyes and say, yes, when I go home, I help my parents to do this. And so people would talk about how VCR programming, scheduling your video recorder to record a certain television show, is not programming, right? Much as people might like to think that it's very difficult, but it's not really a smart career move, especially nowadays. So programming basically all comes down to having the computer execute different instructions. But for them to all execute the same instructions all the time is going to be kind of boring. What you're really going to want is for them to execute different instructions depending on the circumstances. Let me give you an example, right? So I'm moving my mouse around. Right now, when I move my mouse around, it's a pointer, right? It's an arrow. But when I move my mouse into the cell here, it's what they call an I-beam. That is an if statement. Somewhere inside the Mac operating system, it's saying, if you're on top of this, show this cursor. If you're on top of that, excuse me, show that cursor. And if I go up to the menu, right? If I go up to the help menu here, if I've clicked on it, show the menu. If I click again, unshow the menu. So basically all of computers is all about these making decisions. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to need some ways to find out, is something true or not? So the first thing we're going to have to check now is, how do I check for equality? So if I say x equals 100, how can I know, how can I then ask, hey, is x equal to 100? And you might say, oh, I'll just use the equal sign. But look carefully, we've already used the equal sign. One equal sign means assign the value on the right to the variable on the left. It's a little long for one line, but fine. So how can I ask, is x equal to 100? Is x equal to 100? We're going to use a double equal sign. And that equal has a completely different meaning from a regular equal sign. The double equal sign asks a question, is the thing on the left equal to the thing on the right? So I can say x equal 100, and that's going to return true. Because guess what? It's true. X is indeed equal to 100. Well, if I say x equal 200, well, obviously it's going to be false. And these true and false words, you can even see that they're capitalized in Python. They're very important. They tell us, is something true or is something untrue? And by the way, I can do this with other things. If I say here, name equals Reuben, so now I'm assigning it. And then I'm asking a question with, hey, is name equal to Reuben? The answer is, question gives true or false back. And sure enough, the answer is true. By the way, what if I make it just slightly different? Name equal lowercase Reuben. Nope, not the same. Name equal Reuben with a space after it. Nope, not the same. It must be precisely the same value in order for us to say that, yes, it's equal. So you can see that we can then, by the way, we can do this with less than and greater than as well. So if I say x equals 100, I can say, hey, is x less than 200? Yeah. Is x greater than 50? Yeah. Is x less than or equal to 400? Is x greater than or equal to 30? Yeah, all these things are true. By the way, we all even have a not equal, right? The not equals operator is exclamation point equal. That's like the best they could do to get something like, because they didn't have that, the not equal sign. So if I say here, name not equal hello, that's true because the variable name is not equal to the string hello. So that's very nice that we have these sorts of comparisons. Mostly we'll be using equal, but here and there we'll use some others as well, right? And in programming in general, we use them as well. So how does this fit into what we want to do? How do I use this to make decisions? So here's what I could do. I could say I'm going to show you a block of code that's like typical in Python, and then we're going to go through it. So I'm going to say here, name equals input, enter your name. So we're going to get that from the user. And then I'm going to say if name equals Reuben. I'm going to say here, print, hello, master. Print, it has been far too long. By the way, it's very nice to program computers. You can get the respect that you deserve from others, right? Else, print hello plus name. Okay, this is classic Python. It demonstrates a whole lot of things in the language, and these are things that you're going to be using forever. So what happens here? First, what we've already seen, I'm going to run the input function. That's going to ask the user to enter their name. It's going to get a string, and it's going to assign that string to the variable name. So far, so good. And then I'm going to do a comparison. And I'm going to say, is name equal to Reuben? That's going to return either a true or a false value. And this is where the magic begins. The if statement here. If says, if this thing on my right is true, then execute all the code here in this block. If it's not true, then execute the code in this block. So if means if this is true, if the comparison returns true. And then else here is if the comparison returns false. Now, you don't need an else block. You could just say if by itself, but it's pretty common to have else. And so I could say here, if name equal Reuven. Now, in many programming languages, and some of you I know have a little bit of experience with that, many programming languages, we actually use curly braces or the words begin and end to indicate where a block begins and ends. Notice that in Python, we don't have that at all. In Python, rather, we use indentation. And this drives some people bananas. They're like, what? The programming language is going to tell me when I have to indent things? That is ridiculous. It might be ridiculous, but that's the way we do it in Python. So if you have an if statement, at the end of the line, you must have a colon. And the colon means I'm about to open a block. And how do you open the block? One or more lines with indentation. Now you might be asking them, well, wait. What does indentation mean? How are we indenting? And the answer is, on the one hand, whatever you want. On the other hand, don't do whatever you want. The convention in Python is to use 4 spaces, not tabs, 4 spaces. Will it work if you use tabs? Yes, but you don't want to drive people in your work group crazy or other people you're dealing with crazy. So this convention is pretty standard. And by the way, if I now go to the end of this line, I just say enter. Look, Jupyter is smart enough, and most editors that work with Python are smart enough, they're going to indent things by 4 spaces, because that's sort of what we'll do. If you decide that you hate the people you're working with and you want to drive them crazy, because that can be fun, and you decide to use tabs or not 4 spaces, if you want to use like 3 spaces and 2 tabs, you can do that. But then all of your indentation needs to have that. So 3 spaces, 2 tabs, 3 spaces, 2 tabs, you'll drive yourself crazy as well. So stick with the indentation as it is. Oh, okay, I'll check. Difference between equal and is. I will get to that. That's a great question. So, so here we say if name equal Reuven, and then we're going to do this. By the way, how many lines can I have in this block? As many as I want. Absolutely positively as many as I want. As soon as I'm done, I end the indentation. That's how Python knows we're done with the block. And then if you have an else block, which I do here, so it says, oh, well, if it's not the case, then, and again, as many lines as you want, all indented. And then you go back to like regular programs. This will always print regardless of the name, right? Because this is not indented at all. So it's not based on a condition in any way, shape, or form. So let's run this. So enter your name. I'm going to enter Reuven. And sure enough, it's going to say, hello, bastard, it's been far too long. And then this will always print. Because what happened? We got name into the name variable, we got Reuven, and then it checked the comparison. Is it true? Yes, this evaluated to true. So it ran this line, it ran this line. It's not going to run the else block because the if block was true. And then it's going to print this thing because we're continuing in our program. Great. You can have whatever comparison you want here. Really, so if you're checking numbers, you can say if it's less than, greater than, or equal, or not equal. And this is the core of programming. Every single program has lots and lots of if else, and if else, and if else. What are you checking for? You name it. You got an error saying your disk is full, that's because of an if statement. You got an error saying you don't have permissions, that's an if statement. You got an error saying, it's a lot of errors, right? You are able to download a file, you're able to go visit a website, that's because the if statement said, if I have a connection, then I can retrieve it. So this is not like baby stuff at all. Everyone is using if statements all the time. The key is not whether you use if statements. The key is what comparisons are you doing? What are you checking? And so this obviously is a simple sort of check, but it's a real one. It's one that we use all the time, right? So when you log in somewhere, it's going to check, is the username known and does the password match the username? There we go. 2 checks, 2 if statements, bam, we go in. All right, I got a question already from Ashvin. What's the difference between name equals Reuven and name is Reuven as condition? Okay, so this, is the blank line necessary to add the block or is missing indentation? Missing indentation is enough. You don't need a blank line. It's like considered nice to have it there, but you absolutely don't need to have it there. To Ashvin's question, so there are 2 comparisons that are very often confused in Python. We say name equal Reuven, and this says, are the values the same? And that's true. And then we have another comparison. Name is Reuven, and this says, are the objects the same? Now this is a very hard, This is actually kind of hard to describe, but I'm going to try to do it anyway. Now you'll see, by the way, it says equal equal is true and is not true. What the heck is going on? So here's the basic idea. Everything in Python needs to be stored somewhere in memory, right? It just needs to be stored. So the question is, if I have a value that's being stored, can I have multiple variables point to that same value? Can I have multiple values refer to that same value? Yeah, I can. And if I do that, maybe, just maybe, I'll want to check, are these things pointing to the same value in memory? Meaning, if I have here, let's do this. If I say x equals 1,000 and then y equals x. So x is referring to 1,000 and y is referring to the same thing as x. So they're literally pointing to the same place in memory. Do I care about this? No, probably not. When was the last time I actually cared that I was pointing to the same place in memory as something else? The answer is basically never. And so the check of is something that's really, in general, not a good idea to use because it gets confusing. Because what it does is expose the way that Python's memory is allocated. There's certain cases in which using is really appropriate. And I encourage you to use it then, but they're really rare. And in this course, I think we're going to almost never encounter such places. And when we do, I'll explain to you. So and people are so tempted to use is because it looks nice, it's sort of more aesthetic, it's more readable, but it really has a different meaning than equal equal. I'm going to use an example, and I really, really hope this is not offensive, really hope. So if you have identical twins, right, they look exactly the same. You could say that their values are the same, but they're clearly not the same person, right? So equal equal says, do they look exactly the same, right? Are their values the same? Are their fingerprints the same? But is says, are they exactly the same person? Are they occupying the same space in the universe? All right, and so that's the sort of subtle difference, but it's important. Yeah, actually, this is a good idea. So if you have questions, you should send it to everyone, like all panelists and attendees. Not that many people have done that. Not many people have sent anything at all. But Ibar has a very good point there, and so that's a good idea. Actually, so far everyone has done. Oh, Tom raised hand. Tom, just go ahead, and I don't know how I call on you, but you can either speak if you want, or you can type it. All are good. How do I even call on someone? I don't know. If there's a way, no, it was a mistake. Okay. Now you have to ask a question. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So, by the way, I have somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. I have a blog post about is versus equal equal that I wrote a few years ago, and boy, did I get a lot of pushback on it. Oh, here we go. So I will. I'll post the. I'll post the URL in the chat right now. Here we go. Okay. There we go. And then you can read more about it if you want. Just because I constantly see people using is, and it just comes back to bite them at some point. Okay, so this is how I can do all sorts of comparisons. I'm going to take some condition that I want. I'm going to compare, typically with equal equal. I'll do something in the if block, something in the else block. But wait. What if I want an even, let's do a little exercise. I'm going to give you folks like 2-3 minutes to do this, maybe even a little longer if I'm like in a good mood. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to, ask the user, and this is going to be almost identical to what I just did, but that's okay, because starting to get the muscle memory of how to do this is important. So, and I'll even bring down, so ask the user what country they are from, right? And if they enter your country, then say me too, right? Otherwise, say I'm not from there. Okay, so try this for about 2-3 minutes. Meanwhile, if people have questions, that's also okay. Can you post in the notebook because you watch the replay, you don't have access to chat? Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. I should post the chat. Thank you. Absolutely, I will try to do that. All right. So those of you who have access to Jupyter now, those of you who have access to Python, try this out for about 2-3 minutes, and then we'll go over together and I'll show you how it works and how we can do this. And really, this is like a key thing to understand. So I'm just going to mute my mic for a few moments, and if you people have questions, it's totally okay to ask. And 2-3 minutes, we'll go over this together, and then we'll see how we can make our comparisons even more complex than this. I just realized now what Roy was asking for, which was putting the blog post in the Jupyter Notebook as well. Now I get it. Now I get it. So sorry. It takes me a little while sometimes. Let's see if I put this here. Give another minute or so, and we'll go over this together. And by the way, I realize that I'm not giving a ton of time to do this, so I'm sorry. Like giving the time, like timing these things with a large number of people is kind of hard. So we'll see. Okay, let's go over this together. So how's this going to work? Well, I'm going to ask the user, what country are they from? Oh, is there no interest in using F strings here? You could. There's nothing wrong with F string. We'll try that in a little bit as well. So what I could do is I totally forgotten that we talked about F strings last time. Thank you for reminding me. So what I could do is I can say here, country equals input, enter your country. And I can say here, if country equals Israel, then I can say here, print me too. Else, print I'm not from there. Okay, and so now, right, if I say Israel, it'll say me too. And if I print something else, hello, Fredonia. Strangely, not from there. All right, so this is like a simple example, but again, just because it's a simple example doesn't mean that it's an irrelevant example. This is like cuts the key of what to do here. Questions about this so far, and then we'll make it a little more complex. Okay, so the thing is, what if I want to check additional things? What if I want to say, I put US in quotes for my response, otherwise I got an error. Yeah, okay, very good point, Laura. So here's the thing, strings, text always has to be in quotes. So if I were to say like, if country equal like Israel here, no quotes, Python would think that this is a variable, and it would try to find out what is this variable Israel referring to. So you need to put quotes around it to say that is the value. All right, and so that's the difference between a variable and in your response when you're entering it, that should not happen. You should not, because automatically when you enter something, whatever comes back from input should have quotes around it. If you want, you can put that in the chat here, or maybe even the forum. We can try to like debug that together. Maybe not right. I mean, I can try now, but we can also try over the course of the next few days. So basically, what if I have like an additional thing? So what if I want to have like 3 different options? So like option 1, the person enters Ruben. That's their name. What a great name, right? Option 2, the person enters, whatever, right? And that's not a name. I should say something like that. And option 3, right? All others, give some generic response. So this is a pretty common sort of situation, right? We have one possibility or another possibility or all other possibilities. Well, I can deal with that. So let's see, I'm going to say here once again, name equals input, enter your name. And then I'm going to say here if name equals Ruben, print hello, my master, something pretentious like that. Then I could say, else print hello. Here, I'll use an F string here as someone suggested. Hello name, all good. That takes care of me, my name, and that takes care of all other names. Watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to add here elif. Elif means if it wasn't the first one, maybe it's the second one. Name equal whatever. I can say here print, hey, that's not a name. And now I have three different possibilities, or this possibility and all others. Notice elif is just like if, but it says, so this says, what this elif means is, right, the name isn't Reuven. Check this also. So basically, they're still mutually exclusive. You're either going to get this to execute, this print, or this print, or this print. There's no way that more than one of them will fire. And because the else covers all other possibilities, we basically have this possibility, and all others. The beauty here is that you can have as many of these elif clauses as you want. You just say elif this, and elif this, and elif this, and elif this, all sorts of different possibilities. And you can end up, so someone asks, Dory asks, why is this better than nesting ifs? You could do that, but I think this is considered a little better, sort of more aesthetic. And what Dory is referring to is, like, I could rewrite this code. Let me show you what the intention is here. I could say, if name equals Reuven, print this. And then I could say, else, else. And then I could call this if. And I just indent this whole thing here. This will work exactly the same way. There's no difference between this first code and this second code. But I think it's generally considered more acceptable in Python to do this, because then you can have as many of these elif clauses as you want, right? If you want to have 20 of them, then you can have, don't do that, right? But if you have 20 of them, you could have elif this, elif this, elif this, elif this. And imagine how much you would have to indent if you wanted to have that many else ifs, else ifs. By the way, those of you with any experience with, there's some programming languages where they have what's known as switch case. Python does not have that. We have one way of checking conditions, and that is if, which is what, it's like a 60% reduction in the amount of typing you have to do. So you can then do if and elif and else for all sorts of different possibilities. All right, so I'm going to give you now a few moments. I want you to try, sort of repeat the exercise that we did before with a country, but now I'm going to copy this block, copy the cell, and paste it down here. Paste. And now we're going to say, if they enter your country, then say me too. If they enter a country you have visited, right, say you have gone there. And then otherwise say, I'm not from there. So this is just modifying the code that you did before to add an elif clause in there to take care of it. And if you want, you can have, you can have more than one elif clause if you want. All right, so try this out for about 2-3 minutes, and then we'll go over it together. And if you have questions, meanwhile, keep posting in the chat. That's totally fine and great. I'll just mute my mic unless people have questions. Yes, there's a question from Marv about when I experience with Zoom where multiple windows or programs open at once. How do you manage it? I don't have a good answer for that. I managed to assemble the first three, okay, but I'm trying to for the notebook also. I don't have a great answer. I just don't. I mean, it's helpful to have a second screen. I'll tell you that much. That's what I've got here. You only see one. I would say probably keeping, like, what I sometimes do is I'll like have the video in like a small window if I'm watching someone else do something, and my Jupyter Notebook, whatever, in another window where I'll just switch back and forth. And then like if you also have the GitHub repository, it's hard to juggle all these things. I recognize that, and I think in many ways it's a matter of everyone sort of figuring out what works for them. I'm trying to give as many options as possible to keep track of this stuff, but I do recognize that can be a little difficult. So I'm sorry I don't have a better answer than that for this. Okay, we'll give this another minute or two, and then we'll go over it together. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So I'm going to take my code and modify my code from before. So we're still going to say country equals input, enter your country. We're still going to get that from the user. We're still going to say if country equals, in my case, Israel, print me too. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say elif country equals, let's say China. I'll say print, right? I'm not from there, but I've visited many times. Right, and I can have another one. I can say elif country equals, let's say, USA, and say your print, I'm originally from there, too. So you can see how we can have many different possibilities here, and then whatever the person enters, China, whatever, right? And I can say, USA. Now, of course, once again, the condition has to be met exactly. So if I'm a little sleepy and I say I'm from Israel, space, that space would seem to be a nothing, but actually it's going to say I'm not from there. And you might say, come on, right? The computer should understand these things. This is where I might have said last time a very smart phrase that I learned many years ago, which is computers don't do what you want, they do what you tell them to do. And here I told it to compare between Israel space and Israel. Totally different, right? As far as the computer is concerned. So you can imagine then all the times that you've entered stuff into a computer program, all the times you've entered your username, and some programmer somewhere needs to be removing the white space, needs to be doing the checks, and they probably have tons and tons of checks just to try to see if it's the same. I definitely have like my PhD dissertation software at first did not do that. And so people were trying to log in and they added a space at the beginning or end of their username, and they couldn't log in again because they didn't replicate that space at the beginning or end. So I had to go through and like manually update the database, which was annoying for everyone. So you learn over time to like improve how this works and be better about accepting what people will enter. And still, I'm sure that you have seen all sorts of bizarre things, right, with programs that you've been running. You're like, why is it responding that way for exactly that? Oh, so Inbar asks, what if you wanted to have the same response for several other countries? And same response, I don't feel I visited for China, France, and Greece. You could do it under the same elif. That would require, well, actually, you know what? I want to get to that. So this is a perfect opportunity. Fantastic. So let's say, I'm going to take a simpler example. And I'm going to show you how to deal with this. And then I'm going to give that to you as an exercise. You brought it upon yourself. So watch this. If I say here, x equals 10, and then y equals 20. And I want to know, is x the same as 20, equal to 20, or equal to 10, and y equal to 20? Now I'm asking two questions. I only want the comparison to be true if both are true. I can join two comparisons together with and. So I can say if x equals 10 and y equals 20, then print both are what you want. So what's going on here? Basically, it's doing logical stuff. It's saying here, right? It's saying x equals 10 and y equals 20. X equals 10, it does that comparison. What does that return? It returns true. And then y equals 20, it does a comparison, it returns true. So it's saying true and true. If you've ever studied logic before, right? A true and true together gives us true. What if one of them was not true though? What if I said or what if I say x equals 15 and y equals 20? Well, now x equals 15 is going to be replaced with false, and y equals 20 is going to be replaced with true, and that's going to give me false. So we can join conditions together with and that's fantastic. We can also say, you know what, I only want one of them to be true. So if I can say, is x equal to 10 or is y equal to 20? And you know what we're going to do that with? We can do that with or. I can say if x equals 15 or y equals 20, print at least one is what you want. And sure enough, that's what we get here. Why? Because we said x equals 15 or y equals 20. And or returns true if one or more of its conditions is true. So basically, x equals 15, is that true? No, it's not. So we're going to get false. Or y equals 20, that's true. False or true? Well, one of them is true, and thus we get true back. So that's how we can do this sort of thing. So what if I wanted to say here, watch this. I'm going to say now x equals 10 and y equals 20. And now I can say if x equals, let's say 15, print yes, x is 15. And then I could say, okay, you know what, let's even do this just with one thing. And I could say elif x equals 10 or x equals 20 or x equals 30, print it is either 10, 20, or 30. Else, print, x is something else entirely. And you can see here then that now we're getting to really complex logic. Right now I can say if this is true, then great. But if this or this or this is true, then that's great. But you have to think about how this condition is happening. The or is separating conditions, full conditions, x equal 10. What that's saying is that will be true or false. And this will be true or false. And this will be true or false. And so if only one of them is true, that's good enough. But if none of them is true, then that whole thing is false. And so you can imagine that we can expand our conditions lengthwise with lots of elif statements, and we can expand it sort of, widthwise with ands and ors. Now, I'll also mention that at a certain point, this becomes unreadable, either because you have so many conditions or the logic, because you can mix and or also. You say A and B or C and D. Oh my God, use parentheses to indicate the priority step. Notice we don't have parentheses here. We don't need them. But we can put them there if we want. And here's the cool trick. Normally, Python is really persnickety about indentation. But if we open parentheses, then it actually is very forgiving. Because then what we can do is have these things in a line. And that, for many people, including myself, is much more readable. Do you need to do that? No, absolutely not. Can you do it without the parentheses? No. So if you have a bunch of conditions and you want to stack them like this, you can just use parentheses for this. Okay, and now, Inbar, your punishment for asking a good question. What I want you to do, that everyone's going to suffer, not just you. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy my code, and I'm going to paste this here. All right, so what I want you to do now is ask the user what country they're from. If they enter your country, say me too, if they enter, right, one of several countries you have visited, right, then say, I have visited there too. All right? And then, otherwise, you can say, I'm not from there. So I want you to change this code such that now we're not checking one thing, we're checking a few things. Hint, hint, you should probably use either and or. So I'll give you 2-3 minutes to work on this. If people have questions meanwhile, totally fine to ask. And then I'll show you one last quick thing. I think it'll probably be time to finish up for this time. Okay, so I'll give you 2 minutes to work on this while I wait around patiently for questions. So Yaroslav is asking, do we have to do it using or? I have a list with countries I'm using in and it works. Well, we haven't done lists yet. So that is another way to do it. Yes, you can use the in operator and you can use lists, but we haven't talked about either in the operator or list. So kudos to you for knowing that stuff, but we haven't quite gotten there yet. Okay, another minute or so and we'll go over this together. Okay, let's go over this together. So I'm going to take my code from before. I'm going to ask for a country. If country goes with Israel, fine. Elif, and here I'm going to go, I guess I'll keep the USA thing there. So let's do this. Elif country equals China, or country equals India, or country equals, I don't know, UK. I've been to a lot of places. Colon, and then this will work for all of them, because what's going to happen? Well, when I now enter a country, hello, when it's a little slow, hello, you're a little slow. Okay, there we go. So if I enter Israel, what's going to happen? Well, it's going to do this first comparison. If country equals Israel, it's going to say, yes, this matches up. Print me too, and hello, hello, computer. Oh, there we go. Let me see. I've got too much going on in the other windows. Let's get rid of those. Okay, hopefully that'll be good. But now, if I do this, if I run it again, and let's call it, let's say, India. So what's going to happen? Well, the string country, or country is going to refer to a string, and we're going to say, is country equal to Israel? The answer is no. And then we're going to do actually these comparisons. Is this true? No. Is this true? Yes. Is this true? No. But I can string together the ors. This or this or this. One of them is true, and thus the whole expression is true. Okay. Well, that's a good point, Larry. We'll take a look at that in a moment. All right, so basically, the or allows us to check these things. So what Larry did was he said, elif, so let's do this. This is great, because this does not work the way you expect. This is a classic mistake, and it's not your fault. It's Python's fault. All right, so what Larry did was he did something like this. He said, elif country equals China, or India, or UK. Watch this now. So the thing is, it might look like it's going to work. So right now, if I say Israel, that's fine, but that's not the comparison we changed. If I say China, works fine. If I say India again, works fine. What if I say USA? I'm not from there, but I visited many times. Wait. There's a problem here. What's going on? So remember that I said that or is looking to its left, looking to its right. And if the thing on its left and the thing on its right are both true, then it's true. Or if even one of them is true, then it's true. So here we're doing a comparison. We're saying, is the variable country equal to China? Is the value equal to the string China? The answer can be true, the answer can be false. But what comparison are we making here? We're actually not doing any comparison, none whatsoever. Or turns not to the comparison, but to the string. And it turns out that in Python, all strings are considered true when we're evaluating them in if, elif, and or, unless it's the empty string. So when you use this sort of code, what you're saying is, if the country is China, or true, guess when that is going to be true? The answer is always. Basically, once you have this sort of thing, you can more or less get rid of the other clauses there. So, but so many people do this. Like literally every time I teach Python, people do this because it seems so tempting, and Python doesn't warn you that this is not accurate because it is actually useful. I'll tell you why this kind of crazy thing would be useful. Show you. I'll say here, name equals input, enter your name. What I can do is I can say now, if name, not if name equals something, but this means if the user's string is not empty, then we'll say here, print hello. I'll use an F string here. Come back. Hello, name. Else I can say print, hey, you didn't enter a name. And so now I'm saying, Reuven, all is good. And if I just press enter, it'll say you didn't enter a name. Why? How does that work? Because I gave it an empty string. And we're not saying if name is equal to something. Rather, we're saying if name contains anything at all, if it is not empty. So basically, because this string is not empty, and because this string is not empty, they're considered true, and you've basically turned the entire clause into a true statement. All right, and this is something that comes up a lot, and I promise you it will return. And it will both haunt you, and it will be useful. I promise it will be useful at some point. Questions, comments about any of this? Yeah, you can just go ahead. You could either talk, write, I don't know. Someone that didn't quite catch the name of who did that. How do I do hand raising here? I don't even know. Tajinder. I'm sorry if I'm getting your name wrong. I'm not sure how I can get you to talk. You can just type your question, maybe. I'm not sure where I can find you. Oh, I guess there's like a, hold on, maybe. Can I grab you there? And then, oh, I don't know. Just join long line of Costco, huh? Okay, explain that again. Sure. Glad you asked. So here's the thing. So normally, if I say if something, right, then do whatever. That's the basic way an if statement works. And something can either be true or something can be false. So what can be true? I can say, well, if x equal 10. This will evaluate to true, this will evaluate to false. Yes, the session later, all my sessions are going to be video recorded. You'll be able to see it. All right, and I'm sorry about Costco. So basically, this is going to return a true or false statement. Is x 10? Maybe yes, maybe no. So that gives us a true or false. But what if I say just if x? Let's say here x equals a, b, c, d. So what's going to happen now? Well, basically, Python turns to x. Python turns to the string and says, hey, string, are you true or false? And it says, I'm not true, I'm not false, I'm a string, I'm not a true or false value. So if turns to again says, okay, which do you feel closer to? Which are you closer to? And basically, the rule is all strings are true in an if, except the empty string. So basically, if turns to the string and says, are you closer to true, closer to false? The answer is closer to true, and so it'll do whatever, right? So we'll say print, it is truish, right? And sure enough, it'll do that. It's not really true, but in that particular context where we must have a true or false value, it'll be true. What if I say if, let's say x equals empty string, if x, print, it is truish. And I can say here else, print, it is false-ish. Now, because x is the empty string, it is considered false in this context. So how does this relate to what we were doing before? So if I say here x equals 10, let's do this. Let x equals a, b, c, d, y equals e, f, g, h, and z equals I, j, k, l. So if I say if x equals hello, or y, or z, print it is truish, else print it is false-ish. So what's going on here before we actually execute this? Well, Python's going to look at this statement. It's going to say, do I have a true or a false here? Because if needs a true or false. So it's first going to say, is x equal to hello? And the answer is false. So this gets replaced with a false, or y, or z. And then it turns to y. It says, you're a string. Well, strings are always true unless they're the empty string. So that's going to be true. And then it looks at z. It says, you're a string also. Strings are always true except at the empty strings. That's true. And false or true, well, one of them is true, so it becomes true. So that's why if you have ands and ors, you almost certainly want to have a full comparison, equal, equal, or not equal, or less than, greater than, on either side. You don't want to just say x equal, equal, hello, or y. You want to say or y equal, equal, hello, or z equal, equal, hello. And then if you have the full comparison, you know if you're going to be getting a true or false value back. This is a little tricky. This is a little confusing. We're going to be talking about it more, I promise you. But this idea that in a Boolean context, in an if statement, you have to worry about what is something turned into if it's not already true or false. This is both powerful and confusing. Okay. Any other questions before we close up for today? I'll give you another few seconds for those of you who want to type things. All right. So first of all, yeah, the video will be available and the Jupyter Notebook will be available maybe today, definitely by tomorrow night. You can look for it in the my online store, and I'll post a link in the forum, I think, or I'll try to post it in the forum. The forum is open for questions, comments. I will put probably tomorrow night some questions in the forum. I'm super, super glad that you're enjoying this, guys. And ask questions in the forum. Let me know if you have problems. Next time, we're going to dive a little deeper, right? Now we've done sort of what we need in order to start really going through some of the data structures. So we're going to start talking about numbers. Oh, and the line 55 was true, but why printed else in 56? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, because here it was the empty string. So X is the empty string. So it's false in an if statement. That's why. Okay, so all strings are considered true in an if, except for the empty string. And you'll see how this actually can be useful, I promise you. All right, folks, have a great weekend. Stay safe, and I'll see you online, and I'll see you next week. Enjoy, guys. Oh, what is DDG doing at the bottom of the video? I don't know. What is DDG? Oh, I don't know. Marv, I'm not sure what that is. You ask in the forum, I'll see if I can help you out. All right, bye, folks. I'm going to shut this down now. See you next week.